Okay, we should be live. Okay, we are live, I think. Let me test it out, test the audio here, see what's up. Thank you so much for being here, Plumpy. Happy that you'll get to be here, hopefully for the whole stream. I'm doing really well. It's interesting times, and I can't wait to share with you. I want to see why doesn't my pre. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the audio may be a little low. Let me fix that for a second. Hopefully now it's a little better. Please tell me if you can hear me well. Just a second. Test out. Okay, yeah, I think it should be. It should be good, and you will let me know. There's a slight delay. So again, sorry if it takes me a few seconds to answer. But thank you so much, Plumpy, once again. Um, we're gonna, hey Hillel, how are you? We're gonna do a fun one today. So I have a scene that I just want to kind of draw, and I would love to answer all of your drawing related questions. Um, I isolated it so there's no fluff here on the screen. You pretty much can only see my page. Um, yeah, because there's really no need to see anything else. Let me just make sure the entire thing fits here. Okay. Thank you, Plumpy. Thank you for no. So yeah, I'm pretty much gonna draw this scene and would love to chat with you on pretty much anything, drawing related. If you have any questions, I'm actually working on just very initial steps of a perspective course. Some kind of a resource that will solve the perspective problem for many people because it is a more scientific topic, I would say. And a lot of people have trouble with it. Hey, Arib, how are you? Yeah, so we're starting, by the way, an hour earlier than usual in my local time, just to preserve it in 9 a.m. Eastern time, because the US snobs changed the daylight setting earlier than everyone else. So this is what we're gonna go with. So the time is gonna be the same for the US, but it's gonna be different for Europe. I think for all of Europe, pretty much. Uh, Asia, everything. So yeah. So let's. I'm gonna get started here on this nice little scene. I do have a link to it if anyone wants to give it a go as well, just for fun. I'm gonna put it in the chat so that people can give it a try. Um, but yeah, perspective has been something that I've been enjoying over the last couple of days, exploring a little. I don't know why. I just feel like doing something a little more scientific in a way, a little more measurable. Um, thing with paintings is that it's very open for interpretation. There's a lot of creative freedom, which is great. I think I needed something a little more scientific. So let's see. I'm gonna mark. I'm gonna get some kind of a horizon line around the center of my. Try and get it be as straight a line as I can, but this is gonna be mostly sketched out. I'm not gonna do this super accurate. Malo Morgan, hello from Croatia. Thank you for being here. Pam, how are you? Good morning. We don't like the time change either. Coffee here. Yeah, I've been enjoying over the last couple of days. It was my treat. I did a coffee with a slice of cake. That was fun. Like a red velvet cake. That was. Um, so I have been enjoying myself, maybe too much. So let's establish this. I just need one dot, and then I'll be able to establish the whole scene. So I'm gonna put that right here, and that's gonna be. That's gonna help us establish the interior perspective of this room. Now, the fun thing about perspective is you can get maybe one or two things right and then base the whole thing on them. And even if you made some mistakes, it's still going to work out nicely, which is always fun. I'm going to have to build a bit of a structure here. Let's see. So this goes here. Then from here, we're going to do this kind of a line. Yeah, I'm gonna move the whole thing. Hey, Steve, how are you? Hey, Richard. Sandra, how are you? Some of us dislike daylight saving time. Yeah. Steve, I'm coming in. So let's get the party started. Thank you so much for being here. Carolyn, how are you from Calgary, Canada? Daniel, sorry for a time change from the US, hoping they will make the change in law to stop nationally. Yeah, I know some states don't do that, right? True. Monica, hello. Dazzling action. Judith, Pat. Um, Red velvet cake is poisonous. Yeah, it. If it isn't, then it. I mean, it should be based on how tasty. For sure. I'm gonna drop a line here, and we'll use that, I think, for the stairs. I'm gonna just drop some elements, and hopefully it all works. This is interior perspective, which can be a little more challenging, actually, depending on what you're used to. It's not necessarily harder, but it's a little more challenging. And so yeah, we have one staircase, obviously, and then another one. And I don't want to necessarily get into all the fancy details yet, if ever. So I'm going to place some basic structural that. One thing that really helps, just generally, when you're doing these sorts of scenes, is to think of all the space around you as just three sets of lines, basically. So you have the X, Y, and Z. X, Y, Z, that's all you pretty much need to draw anything. And I'm just kind of following these lines. So you'll see this is an X, this is a Y, and the Z's are going to come later. Hillel asks if I don't use perspective points, so I guess vanishing points on the horizon. No, I put in the horizon just so that I have a basic assessment of it, but it's so outside the scene. If I continue this line, it's way to the left, that I just don't include it. It's funny, I know, but yeah. Let me expand my the reference a little. I like to eyeball it because at this point I'm pretty used to it. The problem is when you really aren't used to it, then you have to a little more careful and measured. This is all things I plan on covering in the course, like complex concepts that aren't hard, by the way. This is science. You learn the concepts and you're good. Anu, hello from Finland. Thank you for being here. Plumpy, do you find yourself sketching digitally more frequently, or is that for the stream? Yeah, it's much more convenient for the stream. I actually don't find myself doing more digital work. With that, I do feel like today and yesterday and last week or so, I do feel like more drawing digitally. I don't know why. I'd like to do some character designs actually and work on some new ideas for comics, for manga. And for that, it can be quite convenient to work digitally. Let's see, did I miss anything here? No, we're good. Hello from Argentina, says Lucas Panda. Thank you for being here. So I'm just going to continue with my lines here and see where it takes us. So we have this flat. Then here we're going to have our second pair of, or rather set of stairs. What's really fun, I'm going to go close to the horizon. Oh yeah, I actually know where it reaches because I have this line right here. That should come from all the way to here. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Let's see. So this, yeah, it's probably not as. No, that's bad. Wait, that's all wrong. I got some stuff wrong. Let's see what I got wrong. Lines aren't perfectly aligned, but that's fine. Got this corner. Oh wait, no, I'm good. I think I am good. Not this line that I need. It is this line. right here. So this, ooh, I confused myself. Okay, it's here. That's the line we're talking about. And then from here, this comes out. And then we're going to have this corridor going since door. But then the stairs reach up to something like that. That's a bit of a steep angle. But in any case, yeah. Then it's going to end up somewhere around here. The interesting thing, okay, so just out of this entire mess that I'm doing, one thing to take is whenever you're drawing a scene, one of the more important things is to be aware of the horizon line. If you know where the horizon line is, you can immediately tell if you're looking up at something or down on something. And that's pretty much the most important thing. So right now I know that everything above this horizon line I'm going to be looking up to, which is why this line is going like this rather than like that, right? Even if you don't understand anything beyond that, actually, just think about it this way. It's one of those questions nobody asks during in the midst of a drawing or worse, a painting. You're just kind of drawing the lines you see. But if you just take a moment to ask yourself, where's the horizon line actually? And I'm going to teach that too. But like, where is the horizon line? Once you figure that out, oh, okay, so the rest comes out of that. It's much easier. So yeah. RK Fab Art, hey, how are you doing? Danielle, hello everyone from around the world. Love to be together with you watching. Yeah, this is great fun. This is Thursdays live streams are great fun. Judith, when I have a question, where can I send it to? I do not have Facebook or Instagram. You can ask it right here. That would be the best, I think. But you can email me as well. You can find the email in the channel. So I'm gonna get rid of some just one thing you want to learn how to do that is very useful is to see through things. So, for example, a great way of checking out, making sure things line up is if we drop a line here. That should work because the stairs don't get all the way to the edge of the wall, actually. So that's pretty much okay. But it should line up somewhere with that corner. This I'm not even sure why I was putting this corner in, but that's fine. But yeah, I'm gonna drop these lines because I don't need it. Right now. I'm just gonna do this, that. We'll slowly structure this entire thing. My angles are a little off here, so let's figure out what's wrong. It's not a big difference actually, and I think just this line could vertical. That's pretty only thing that felt a little off. Yep. And then we have that second floor, and I think there's another pair of set of stairs right here. And this line goes that. And then this gets up to here, and then it that. And you see how slowly you can build up a scene. And this is going to be or here. Then we'll have this going into another vanishing point, actually going a little more in the distance, I see. Up, and then the rest of the details here aren't as important, so I'm just gonna get rid of the horizon line in most spots. You kind of want to remember where it was, but it's actually not that important once you've established most of the scene. We have a room corner, goes here and there. And look at what's gonna happen here. So pretty much the same height as the stairs all the way up to here. We're gonna close up the room. We're gonna finish everything now. We have this and we have that, and you want to make sure that these lines line up with the ground, with these lines. It's funny, interiors are very much similar to boxes. It's the same principle. So most people encounter boxes, and this is what I talk about a lot, but I want to show you some cool tricks. If you have a box in perspective, when you're doing an interior, you're just physically inside the box, right? So if we zoom in and make it a little transparent, this is our room. We are inside the box. How fun is that, right? And then we have maybe a sofa and different elements inside the room. all sorts of things, a table, right? But we're essentially inside a cube. One more cool thing you can do is cut out parts of the cube, and then you'll see what the room looks like. So let me show you that. So if we travel along, don't worry, it's a bit complex. It's okay if you don't know how to do things yet. But what you can do is cut out parts of the cube or box, and essentially get almost something like a room here, kind of a thing. How neat is that? We just cut out a part of the cube. Should probably be a little more accurate with my perspective here, but yeah. Art just brings people together, definitely. So Pito, that's the big one. How do you motivate yourself into making art? I think a good question to ask yourself is why. Why are you interested in making art? I think if you're asking the question, you probably are. It's only a matter of figuring out why. And I would add to that, it's okay if the answer is I don't have a reason, so I'm just not gonna dedicate too much time to it. If it's something that once in a while enriches you, and you feel good doing, then so be it. That's enough. If it's something that's in your soul and it's really important for you to spend time because it helps you connect with whatever you feel or anything like that, then there you go. You have your reason. And if you don't have a good reason, it's okay not to, and you're fine to do. Not everyone has to make art. Some can just enjoy it, appreciate it. There's a lot of things that I think I would have loved in theory to do, and I've been thinking about over the years, but I just never ended up doing. And why is that? Guitar. That's the easiest example I can give. Like playing the guitar. I always pick it up, do a bit of it, and then stop. I don't see the progress that I want. I don't feel like things are easy to do, and I'm just not interested enough in it. So maybe not. Maybe it's not for me, and that's fine. You don't have to do anything. Okay, not to do stuff. It's actually very, I'm gonna stretch this out a bit. It's actually very liberating to not do stuff. How's that for motivation? Very liberating to remove stuff that maybe isn't as relevant to you or your life or what you're interested in, right? So I'm totally okay with that. Let's save that file before I mess it up and lose it. Wait, I'm gonna send it to this streams folder. Room. But yeah. Pam, wow, I'm impressed. Judith, I turn on the sound of my mobile live stream. How do I turn on the sound? Is it muted or just quiet? Where do I turn on the speaker on my phone? Who can I only write on chat? Oh yeah, no, you can talk. It's on YouTube. It doesn't let viewers talk. You'll have to do something like what's it called? Twitter Spaces and a bunch of others, but not on YouTube. Yeah, Hillel says that in art, if it's not like a fire within you, it's not gonna work. I think even if you're not as passionate as fire, if it's just not important for you as much, then yeah, there is nothing to work. You just don't do it, and that's okay. Vsauce. Oh, Vsauce. Are you a relative of Vsauce? Let me know. In your opinion, in terms of ink art shading, do you prefer stippling or hatching? I definitely prefer hatching. It's much faster. Stippling is very time consuming, and if you like that effect or just want to do it for fun, it's cool, but it's so time consuming. And you probably know this if you're asking the question. Here we go, we have another one. Yeah, I'm working on a better setup so that I can do this both on paper and digitally, and it will happen soon. So one of the things I found is I'm enjoying live streams even more than videos. So maybe I'll convert one of the weekly videos that I also kind of miss doing recently. I'll convert it to another live stream, and then I can paint and explore and work slowly, and you can join in on the process, and it's fun. So I'm considering that actually. Bra moment. Connie, indeed, art relieves stress. Yep. Bra moment. Been criticized by my professor that my watercolor is too opaque bright. I need to use the components of watercolor in my paintings. I don't know how to. Too opaque bright. Yeah, I will really need to see the painting, but I would say don't take every criticism with a huge grain of salt. Because the person giving it may be interested in a bit of a different look or a bit different feel in their art, and that has nothing to do. Here's the line that's annoying me. That has nothing to do maybe with you and what you prefer. That's the one risk of again learning, even watching my videos. You're at risk of picking up secondhand stuff that you really don't care for. Now, sometimes there's good stuff in listening to teachers and learning from people who have experience, but you have to really be careful that you're not picking up crap, for lack of a better term, that you don't need. You know, so I'll try being very cognizant of that. But yeah, I would need to see it in order to really say. What happens sometimes when people have too opaque, quote unquote, paintings is they either use very opaque paints, or you have like a very opaque yellows and reds, and you're using them very thick. I would say, yeah, that. Either the pigment or the thickness. And nothing wrong with that, you have to understand. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a question of what you're trying to achieve. So yeah. Pam, we do what we enjoy. The payback becomes so good. It becomes more important. Then I personally am addicted, like therapy. Yep. The boss wants tips and tricks for art competitions, which are mostly poster making. What do you mean by poster making? I'm curious to hear. Is that actual poster making, or are you making some kind of a reference I'm unfamiliar with? I'm curious to hear. And then we'll figure out what kind of tips and tricks maybe we can come up with. Pat, the box for me explained how you got to the drawing itself. Perspective is hard. I like flowers more. DSOS Church stippling is just time consuming, but rewarding if done right. Yeah, and some people, that's their whole style. Hey, Hattie, how are you? Judith, I have a hard time reconnecting to relearn perspective. I do want to relearn because I have to use it in my studying art therapy in Netanya. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll make it easy. Once the course is out, it'll be easy. It's gonna be very structured, very step by step, very beginner oriented. Hey, Midu. Sure, bro. Moment. DSOS, got any art books you can recommend for landscape? Yeah, I like what's it called? By Jack Ham. Search Jack Ham, Hamm. I think it's called Landscapes. I did a review of this book here. I keep forgetting its name, but it's a really good one. A really good book for this specific topic that I highly recommend. So I'm going to start building up the stairs. Now, how will I do this? Let's go a little sketchy. I feel like I'm being a little too tight in my approach, just generally speaking. Yeah, we're gonna have, let's do this. So there's a dip, and then it goes like this. So this line, and then this line is gonna follow this, and it's gonna dip down, follow that same perspective, and dip down here. And we pretty much got the stairs. Now I'm gonna continue with these lines. So then I'm gonna figure out where they stop. It's not as hard. Drop the same line. So vertical, another vertical, and one less vertical. And then you follow these lines, and we got the stairs. Pretty accurate. This go a little in. But that's a good structure to begin with. As long as you understand this, again, the X, Y, Z, you're good, because you're just traveling across space. So this is moving in one axis, this is moving in another, this is moving in another. It's very simple to travel across the space and just edit whatever line you want. It's actually not that hard. Let's say, for example, I want to find the center of a step, right? So this is the center of this line right here. all I have to do is do this line that follows these two lines, and I'll find the center on the other side. Or I can take a bit of a detour and go with this line, right? This, then move alongside this line, and then go back to the middle. Like, there are plenty of ways of finding whatever you need if you just use this line system. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that up here because it doesn't really interrupt anything. Let's give those names. And any line that I'm gonna explore here is gonna fall into one of these criteria, basically. Stairs are hard for me. I'm missing something. Yeah, the problem happens usually when you just... Ruth came back. The problem happens when you assume you can just draw it from observation, and there's a lack in technical knowledge or something like this. So you assume something will work out and it doesn't. You just probably need to learn a few concepts and then you'll be able to do it. That's usually what I find. It's actually not that hard, technically speaking, you know. As a story might break a hip. Yeah, that's dangerous. Hey, Marco, how are you? Henny, tips for painting an architecturally dense reference. Yes. If you don't remember anything from today, just remember this. Figure out where the horizon line is. That's the one thing, and that's the first thing I did here was figure out, okay, that's where the horizon line is. Once you figure that out, you know what you're looking up towards, down over. Once you find the horizon line, you can find your perspective, which is going to be, you know, if you connect all of these lines, there's going to be somewhere outside the frame here, and the other side's going to be the same thing, somewhere around here. Once you find all of that, you've done most of the hard work. Then it's a matter of understanding spheres, ovals, sorry, not ovals, spheres, ellipses, cylinders, boxes. You know, this was a box. You may have not been here when I established this, but this is a box. You know, just a box. Let me do this to the side. A box. That's to which I added stairs. Like that. See? So once you understand these basic structures, you can really build everything up. The trick is you need to understand them. Sometimes that takes a bit of practice, not too much, but a bit of it. And it takes maybe drawing a bunch of boxes just to figure out the you know. But if I draw a box that's sloppy, you'll immediately notice something is off, right? Like you can tell that that's off, right? So maybe you're at a spot where you're drawing something like this. So then you figure out, okay, what's wrong here? Let's start with this point. Putting the point, this line doesn't conform to my perspective, so let's start with that. Have it conform. This line definitely doesn't. It goes up. I need it to conform to this line, right? Then this line's good. It's pretty close. And then these lines do the same thing. That's too much, you see? And you're good. See the difference? So once you establish the horizon line and you pretty much understand simple shapes, boxes, etc., you should be good. It takes a bit of practice, but not too much. Don't get too carried away in practice, which is a funny thing to say. Hey, Monica, how are you? Hope you're doing super well in the Gulf of Florida. Where can I learn the basic concepts? I have a bunch of videos on perspective, and there will be a course that starts from the very basics. I will keep you updated on that. Marco, does it really matter if the paper I'm using is cellulose or 100% cotton? Yes, it's gonna behave differently. Most people will prefer cotton, but cellulose has its advantages. Paint acts a little differently, so you have to get used to it. But paint tends to stay up more on the surface, so there are actually a few advantages. It can help with longer wet and wets in some cases, though it's gonna also act erratically sometimes. Generally speaking, you'll have much better control with 100%. That's a standard. For sketching and drawing, it doesn't matter at all, I find. Ra, I've been following your videos for years now. I've been learning so much because of your tutorials. Very reliable in architecture. Thank you so much. Thank you. DSauce, thanks, mate. Working on landscapes for my sketchbook, since landscapes are a new theme I'm tackling as practice to develop my art. That's cool. That's a great thing to tackle if you want to learn composition, if you want to, without the constraints of architecture and all of that. It's a great way to do that. By the way, I didn't establish my basic things here properly. Like I can see now, I really messed up this line. This line does not conform at all. Has to be more like that. Yeah, I find tons of small here. Then that's a little better. Yeah, you keep working at it. Yeah, that looks better. So let's see, I missed a few, and then we'll continue. Oh yeah. Got any? Yeah, we talked about that. Chris, how are you? Hi from DE. What is DE? Is that Delaware? Thank you, Liron. Have the great ability to make a complicated scene seem so simple. You have. Thank you so much. Good. Hey, Patricia. So let us continue with a bit more of this structure. Let's tackle these stairs. These are going to be a little challenging, but we'll figure it out. So this line, I'm going to tilt it a bit. So this line goes a little down. So I'm going to drop a few lines to help me. This is going to be horizontal. And it's going to pretty much fan out. And wait, what am I doing? I'm totally off. Yeah. So it's going to... Okay. That's just the angle of drawing digitally as a challenge. So it's going to go this. And then it's going to start moving towards the horizon. It's going to be this angle down here. And it's slowly going to angle up here. So that's pretty much the theme of the stairs. We're going to get it to look a little more accurate in a second. Now we actually have something complex happening here, which is for some stairs, this is why it's important to figure out where the horizon line is. For some stairs, you can see the top, and for others, you can't. So here, you can see the top side of pretty much every stair, right? It's this. And you can see the front as well, right? It's this. Now here, it's a bit different, because you won't see it for every stair, because some stairs are above the horizon line. So we need to figure that out and solve that problem. So here is, let's say, our first step. We'll take it one step at a time. For the next one, we probably cannot see the top as well. And then we see the front. That's gonna happen until we get to the horizon line, which is here. And that's where the stair is gonna be again fully flat, but after that point, we are actually going to start seeing the tops of the stairs, which is very interesting. So take a close look here. Oopsie, oopsie. I'm going to zoom in a bit. You can actually see like a sliver of that stairs top. Then we'll continue down like this. I need to make my pencil. I'm ambitious with that size of a brush, thinking I can show that. And then here, this goes down like that. Now here, we're going to see yet more of the top plane. That's going to be, and let's see if I can make it easier. Okay, yeah. So this line is that. We can see a bit more, right? Bit of an arduous process, but it's not terribly hard. And then this goes here, so you see how the stairs start to tilt. At first they went like this, and now they're going like that. Let's find the corners, make it a little easier. So that's going to be a corner. That's going to be another corner. That's going to be another corner. And I think that should work. This, and the tops of the stairs are just going to kind of reveal themselves to us. Something like this. Now I'm zoomed in, so I might have messed some of these up. But yeah, that's way too strong of an angle. Something like this, I would say. I don't need to show the other side because it's covered up. It's covered up here as well, and I'm going to add that part that's covering it up. But for the most part, you see it makes kind of sense. I don't know if it's gradual enough. Probably this go a little higher. So that makes a little more sense. Look at how the top is slowly revealed to us. Okay? Yeah, D is Delaware. I knew. Great. So I was right. The boss. While drawing a portrait, it's really hard to draw exact face as it is. The hardest part is the jawline. It takes me more than 20 times to draw a jaw. Yeah, it's a tough place in the face because a lot of things happen here. Actually, you have some very complex shapes going on. You can see the bottom plane of the face. Just so many things happen there. So you want to tackle it as a complex problem. To get the likeness, honestly, is really hard. I'm not in a place where I can get the likeness. Definitely not consistently. So there are maybe easier ways to get started with the basic shape of the face. If you work on something a little more like a Loomis head, so you do head, then get the main kind of shape down, and you understand perspective, so you understand how these lines interact, and then you know that this is the jaw or the chin. You connect there. Now, if you have a more complex angle from below, let's say, then you may have something like this. And in this case, you'll see the bottom part of the chin. And that's a lot of the complexity comes from that. And then the neck connects to the bottom. And that thing faces down. And the nose is somewhere up here. No. Oops, sorry, you can't see. So I would say study the basic structure before you're tackling a specific structure like my head here, trying to draw it. That'll be a little more complex. Just something to think about. But yeah, it's hard. It takes a bit of experience. Patricia, good morning from sunny New Hampshire. My friends just spent 2 weeks in Israel and brought back sand from Tel Aviv and Netanya, not Netanya. I like to analyze it. Are you near the coast? Everything you hear is near the coast. We're such a small place. But yes, sand under a microscope. That's something you haven't seen before. You should. And thank you for the kind words. Henny, what's the little compass thing? Yep, so this thing right here, right? That's the thing you refer to. It's just showing how pretty much every parallel line here, except for one set of lines, follows this structure of X or Y or Z. All of this room is based on this structure. The only thing that does not follow it is things that aren't level. So, for example, this is level, right? This is flat. It's parallel to the ground. The only thing that isn't parallel to the ground here is this. These lines. These don't follow any of the axes you're seeing here. Other than them, which is what makes the stairs a little more complex. Other than that, it all follows these 3 lines, and you can use them to travel across the room, take different measurements, do all sorts of things. So for example, if you want to, what would be a good measurement? Most of it is simple enough. Okay, yeah, here's a good example. So you have, okay, here's a good example for you. So let's say there are children living in the house and they are measuring their height, right? So one kid is this tall, okay? Now the next time you want to measure, you're running out of space because he's really tall now, if that makes sense. So you want to transfer the measure over here to this wall. How will you figure out the height of this here? Or even harder, let's say this height, but here. You can't just do this. It's not going to work. So the way you do this is you travel across the systems of lines. So first you travel across the X line to get to this corner. And then you travel across the Y to get to this corner, to this line, rather. And there you have it. That's the same height. Okay? So you can measure a bunch of stuff if you just follow this structure. And that's the goal here. So if you were to, let's say, again, find, so you want to hang, so you have a picture frame here, framed painting. Up here, you want to hang one here, but the same height. You'd move with the line all the way to the other side. With the line all the way to the other side, and you can tell that this is the same height on the other side. I hope that makes sense. So we can use this 3-line system to measure a bunch of stuff. It's very useful. So I just put it here for as a reminder. Nice. The riser line on the left would also shorten up the stairs as well. Yep. Hey John, how are you? Hope everything is well. I saw that your message. I'll try answering after the live stream. Zenful Painter, how are you doing? The boss, yeah, practice makes things more perfect. Yes, a little more. Judith, do you do this compass drawing if you do landscapes? It can help. I can show you like a landscape after this. It can help. Yep, one step. RZR. I'm a car designer and I have no problem drawing proportions, perspective, and other aspects on smaller pages or thumbnail sketches, but as soon as I get into drawing big, I mess up. Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes you'll need to transfer it either digitally or using a grid. That actually is something that's a bit inevitable. You know, it's hard sometimes. But great job. That's a cool job. These says there are certain websites that provide stock images. Yep. This is from one of them. This is from Pixabay. So yeah, I'm gonna start adding some structure to the stairs. So we'll have to make these beautiful lines that we drew here disappear, actually. So I'm gonna start with the innermost line. So that's gonna be something like this. And it's gonna follow us. Actually, it looks like it goes up all the way to here. Just to show you how I developed this into a more complex detail, let's say. Let me clean up a bit of this. Yes, it's a shame to give up all the beautiful details we just put. But that's part of it, you know. Sometimes you'll want to construct things outside your field of view. Make sure you're accurate. Big part of drawing and painting. So we have this, and this should kind of go up to here, and this moves down. So this is the like innermost. And I'm gonna try and base it off of what I have here. We'll see how I do. I'm gonna probably switch to smaller size. I don't want to get into too many like teeny tiny details, but just a bit to give it a nice flavor, so to speak. So we have this here. some things, like if you really want to be accurate, yes, you have to be very specific. So for example, this goes in here. Then you see it's the same line system. Exactly the same lines as these stairs. This goes here. And it can be very confusing with shorter lines, actually. So sometimes if you're having trouble, extend the line a bit and it'll make a bit more sense. And up. And so you get the perfect kind of structure. This. That's if you really want to go into the structure a bit more accurately. And then here it's a little easier actually. So we need to find that same height, which is about here. Drop that down. This goes up that same angle and goes here, and then it kind of stops, I think. What it looks like. Of course, there are tons of other details in there. You need to get rid of this guideline from earlier. And you see how it starts to hopefully make sense. These are the more complex details, right? We can add the detail here. That's pretty nice. You have, and it's gonna all conform to the perspective. So this, I'll have to connect it better. So I'll say, then it will connect with this. So we're making small modifications just to make sure it all lines up. And then look at what we have here. We have this nice little bevel wooden kind of detail. Now here's where, again, it's useful to know where the horizon line is, because we have this line that follows these lines, so it should point to the same vanishing point. So people have the trouble of figuring out, is it this way tilted or that way? Where do I tilt this? And in this example, it's this way. It's gonna follow the same angle of the stairs. Then gonna go up the stairs like so, all the way over the first step, and then back into the distant corner of that wall where it's barely visible. And this should probably end like, and then we'll get rid of some of our guidelines. And look at how nicely cut it down. It's not going to be the cleanest sketch, but it is look nice. So if you're looking at a scene and you're really trying to just get your pen flying in the air, if you're drawing things fast and you're wondering why they're inaccurate, look at how much time and focus I'm putting into just this scene. So if you're grabbing I want to make it real obvious. Like if you're grabbing a piece of paper and you're going, okay, so this is stairs, which is something I'll do very often, if I'm just doing a quick painting, right? I'll do this. Then here's a bunch of stairs. Here's a bunch of other stairs. Close it off. Go like this, go like that, set it up real fast, right? You could do that. And a lot of painters do it. Just know that sometimes, the amount of time you devote will affect the amount of details you can cram in and how accurate they're going to be, okay? So just have that in mind. It's not that it's wrong to sketch things fast. I do this all the time. For practical purposes and just to have more fun, but just know that if you got something really inaccurate, don't be surprised, because sometimes these details are hard to draw accurately. Worked fast. It's not a surprise why you didn't get the details accurately. And again, that's not wrong. It's just how these things work, There we go. Got any art-related life hacks you can share? I'll turn the question to you, everyone here. I'm not sure. Art-related life hacks. I don't have too many life hacks, I think. I'll think about it. Let me brew it in my mind. I'm not sure. Do you also use the compasses guideline for perspective when you do landscapes? Oh yeah, you asked that. I will be very cognizant of the um, horizon line, whether it's the real horizon line or the theoretical one that helps me place things. Um, hey Daiji, how are you? Um, Maureen, please demonstrate how to do the trimetric perspective. Not sure what it is. Let me gap in my knowledge. I'm being or unequally inclined. I'm not sure what it is. I know what isometric is. Metric. Hmm. I don't think I'm familiar with that. Let's see. Any? Okay, isometric 120. Trimetric just looks inaccurate to me. What does that mean? Sure. Okay, let's see. Let's try and figure it out. Trimetric projection. The direction of viewing is such that all of the three axes of space appear unequally for short. Go along each of the dimensional. Man, I'm sure there's a simpler way to explain this. I'm getting it. I don't get the difference between trimetric and isometric. And whatever. I'm gonna have to explore it. I'm really not sure. I know what isometric is, and it's something I will do a video on soon, actually. Just because it's a useful. This is isometric, by the way. This system of axes is isometric. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I wanted to see what Ruth was up to. Give me a second. She's here, but okay. Sorry about that. Hey, the anchor, how are you? Derek, 3 point. If you're talking about trimet, how to say it? Yeah. High, wide. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't want to talk about something I have no idea about. So. Very good. Oh well, I'll have to look into it. I'm really not sure. I know that you can take perspective into consideration. You can not with isometric view, but other than that, I don't know what that is. So let's continue with this little frame. So this goes up here to compensate for stairs, it looks like. Let's try and take a bit more of a, not necessarily painterly, but looser approach with the details. I think that'll be a little more fun. So this goes up here, and then it travels up, goes at an angle like that, follows that perspective. So sometimes after you establish the main key perspective and details, that's exactly when you can go a little more loose and sketchy. That's actually the fun part where you can do that. But if you start with the sketchiness, you better be a little experienced at least with figuring these things out, you know. Or you can figure them out as you go along, and I used to do that a lot in the past. And a lot of my perspective knowledge originates in experimentation with drawing things just visually as I see them without putting too much thought into it. Just be aware that it may take a little longer to learn that way and you'll make a lot of mistakes, which is fine. This probably should be that. Then disconnects and we get this nice little, it's not too, it's a bit of a mess because again I didn't really build a structure to it. I'll have to zoom in a lot to build a proper structure, but I don't honestly I don't care as much about that small structure. But you see this applies to everything. So we have this little, I don't know what it is, electrical socket or something, same lines. You see I'm following same lines. Now I know that it's beveled out from the wall, so it's gonna be like this. And this structure is going to apply to everything. And that feels like it's part of the room. Same for the paintings and whatnot. So this is going to be following the perspective as well, like this. Because people have a lot of issues with figuring out where the lines are tilted, which way they go. That's a big part of it. Not sure if it's a life hack, and it's probably a no-brainer, but when you are having trouble determining a shadow on a figure, just imagine you're in the light source's point of view. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I actually have never thought of it this way, but it's really nice. Anything you don't see or barely see plays a shadow, yeah. Trim's trick is foreshortening. Foreshortening is tough. So yeah, now you can follow this method to determine everything. So for example, you have this little nice desk thing here that's gonna also follow the perspective. It actually reaches all the way to this corner, which I got this distance way wrong. I'm not sure how that happened, by the way, but that's fine. This should be somewhere around here. But the beauty is, if you know perspective, you can just extend these lines. You don't have to, even if you were inaccurate, you can continue with your structural inaccuracy while keeping the, or compositional inaccuracy while keeping the structural integrity. That makes sense. Do this table, and then even the legs that are kind of fancy, you can start with simple vertical lines and then slowly build up on them. So the way you would do this is, again, here are vertical lines, but then you'll work on the curve based on the vertical lines you placed. Right? I'm not seeing that well, but it's something like this. There's a bunch of things going on there. Not going to try capturing it all. But yeah. Okay, trimetric is foreshortening. It didn't feel like that from the way. You've developed a good eye for perspective. Yeah. But you know what? It doesn't take me long, and I don't think it should take long to learn a concept, right? A single concept shouldn't be that hard to learn. Honestly, you see it once or twice and then you should be good. The challenge could be in applying it, but like understanding the concept isn't that hard, trust me. Really not that hard. By the way, one thing that can help you with perspective is to actually drop, like, you see this kind of marble floor. I actually draw the floor's tiles, it'll show me immediately where I got the perspective wrong. Like here. That. But yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna keep this simple. So let's do bigger pencil. Just get the rail, or not the rail, the, I'll never remember what it's called. Place it in. Go. And then, oops, the guideline. I didn't want to put that. If you really want to bring out these details, you can. This goes down and then that. Bit of a lower angle. That's a nice little detail. So even if we, so let's do this. Let's zoom in on one of these just for fun. I'll show you. So the way these work, put it under and make this. It's gonna be a bit hard to. Let's zoom in on that detail and explore that just a bit, right? So the way this works is also within the perspective. So I'm gonna do a file. So what I like is to start with the general structure, right? So you'll have something like a not cylinder, but an elongated box, right? And again, the direction. So this is currently under the one. Oh, the one I'm looking at is a different one, actually. That's important. And then we can move on to a bit of a different subject if you want. We can do a landscape or something more natural. Actually, this one is great because you can see it better. This thing here. So right now it is under the horizon line, which means these lines go up in that direction. These lines go in that direction. And like that. So if we really simplify it, it's going to be an elongated box. Let me clean this line up. And it will make a lot of sense, actually. So this goes on here. And this follows the same perspective. So something like this. Just want to show you how if you start with a simple shape, you'll do really well. Now, out of this box, we have this nice little pyramid shape coming out. And then we have in sphere in space, which we are also looking at from above. So it's important to be aware of these things. Small angle, but it is from above. See? Something like that. They somehow connect. And this goes... and there's actually something else interesting here. These go like that. That's another interesting detail. And again, it's a bit hard to see, but I think what happens here is this moves down here and it connects to a bit of a flat thing, and then this goes. See? So you have this nice round and then flat structure. Round and then flat here. I think something like that is going on there. And then it's relatively short, so that's going to be like this. That's going to be like that. Now, you probably see less of this side, so I should make it thinner. That's fine. Zoom out a bit to make sure I don't lose the overall structure. Then this goes... By the way, this is very complex. In the course I'm planning on perspective, it's going to start from way more basic stuff, which we can... I planned for this just to be a general kind of drawing live stream, but we can do whatever. Now, even when you look at this, this oval in space also follows perspective. One way to figure out where it is by placing a box in perspective and constraining it, and that'll show how wrong I was, actually. So, this is our box, and this is going to be the oval, see? That way you can be a little more accurate with the structure. And under that, we have another one. But the basis for it all was this, right? This box that we started with. That's the most important shape here. Funny enough, more than everything else you're seeing. And then you get all of these, you know. Again, you can sketch these just from observation and go real fast. But if you truly want it to be accurate, sometimes building things up like that is the better option. And by building them that accurately, by the way, talking about shading, it gets much easier to shade accurately. So let me show you how this applies. So we have this last kind of box here. So let's say that light comes from here. So everything in the shadow is going to be this left side of the ball. And then we're going to get a sharp edge of shadow. And then here I'm actually not sure what's going to happen. Probably something like this. This entire thing is going to be in the shadow. And here we'll get a very smooth transition. And because we structured it ourselves, we recognize much more easily the direction where the shadow is going to be, and the core shadow, the edge of the shadow, all of that much easier. Here's a sharp edge, but here it's going to be a much softer edge. Okay. Softer transition. And here we're going to be into some more soft transitions, but here it's going to be a sharp transition. Right? So the way to get there is by becoming very familiar with the shape of the object you're drawing or painting. Probably going to be a little lighter there. You see, but I hope that makes sense. Now, all of this isn't easy necessarily, but that's how you build it up. Maureen, 3 axes have different foreshortening, and vanishing lines are parallel. It's as if you're looking at a cube from above. Thanks. No, yeah, from above is easy. From above, it's not that complex. So let's say you start with the angle we had before. So we had this, which is from above, by the way. This angle. Right? And then if you look at it from above, means we're rotating it to see more of this side. So all you're going to get is these lines are going to go up in the angle. So maybe 120 degrees, whereas here it's more. And these are going to follow suit. And then this is going to also do the same. But that's just an angle. This should probably be shorter, by the way, if you want it to be a box. But this is just an angle. I don't think that's the trimetric thing they mentioned. They in Wikipedia, which I tried figuring out. I just couldn't. That's more of an angle thing. Add a little cornstarch to loose acrylic paint to make the paint thicker. Oh, cool. Won't work for watercolor, of course. Connie, I've added a couple drops of glycerin to my paint to extend drying time. Cool. Yeah, you heard me say it in the with Steve Mitchell, or did you figure it out on your own? That's cool. For the trick is to draw a square in the floor first. Yep, and I will say, Steve, add to that, the compass thing shouldn't be, there isn't like one way of doing it. So the most common one would be the 120, I guess, degrees thing. I think that's 120. Let me think. So that's a 90 degree. And yeah, so this would be 120, 120, 120. So this would be one way of doing it, but you can do it for every different perspective, right? So here, for this box, it's going to be this. But for this box, it's going to be this, right? That's the beauty of this structure, that it can represent a lot of things. And you can give it a bit more structure to really indicate that. So, for example, this, you put an arrowhead on it, you'll get something like this. Whereas here, it's going to maybe be a little bit like that. And if you look from below, so that's really fun, you'll have this kind of a thing. And from below, you'll get this, right? That goes up is towards us. Well, it depends on the size, and let's say it goes into depth, right? So you can start getting a bit of a better orientation. There's probably a 3D model of this, and then you can play around with it. Christina, hi Liron. In the Loomis method, what does the oval within the circle representing the cranium represent anatomically? So the oval, are you talking about the side? It's just the side of the face. If that's what you're referring to, let me know if not. But so this is the the head's very basic structure, and then the oval here to the side basically represents the side of the face. It's where the front, and some people will use almost a boxy shape to convey that, like this. It's where the front turns to the side officially. So you know that if you find the center here, you can place the ear on it like that. That would be the this oval. It's just the side plane. It's this side plane. So if light comes from here, if it were a box, you'd shade this entire thing. But since it's a face, you're gonna shade mostly this oval. I hope that makes sense. Now, of course, the jaw does not end here. It actually reaches all the way to here. But just for the example's sake, the face is a little more complex than that. But that's going to be, to really figure out the light and shadow, you'll have to play around with all of the other details. So you have the eye socket that's dented a little inward. You have the cheekbones. So that's going to be also in the shadow pretty much. Okay? Something like that. So the side of the face, one way of kind of showing it is like that. The eye socket will probably also have some shadow on it, which is fun enough broken up by the nose. So you'll get the nose coming out of there like this, right? Coming out of the center of the face, you'll get the mouth. See? Maybe the nose is a little too high, I'm not sure. And that's going to connect to the eye sockets and all of that good stuff. I hope that makes sense. I have a hard time painting fabric clothing in watercolor. Faces are fairly easy, but fabric, yeah, it could be a bit challenging. Like everything, to me, it's about focusing on the abstract shapes. If I can picture the abstract shapes, figure out where they go, I'm good. Like here, right? It's just abstract shadows. Now, it can be easier said than done. One thing you can do is explore simple versions or iterations of clothing. Maybe just something that doesn't have too many of these, inert folds, but something a little simpler, flat lines, something like that. One more thing that can help is strong contrast, meaning strong sunlight or artificial light. That brings out the areas of light and shadow to become clearer. That's one. And two, the cloth you're looking at, white color or light color, is easier to see the shadows on in the case of strong high contrast scene. That can really help you. Christina, so from corner of forehead to back of cranium, back and side. So side of cranium. Yes, and remember, it's a bit of a softer transition at the back. It's a sharp transition here, around the corner of the eyebrow. And this should just go around like this. This is what I meant. Yes, it's the hardest transition around the front. The more you go up and back, it's going to be a softer transition. Much softer, actually. So you could even just kind of indicate it like that. Very weak. The thing is, Christina, here's what's important to understand. There is no real answer to that question. It's more about what you decide that it represents. Okay? You can decide that it represents different areas and draw it that way. Draw it in a way that includes more shapes in it. A lot of this is up to us to decide on. You can decide to include a lot of structures together in one simplified shape, or you can divide it into multiple shapes. You can do quite a bit and change things up quite a bit. So a lot of it depends on you. Eric's talking about the compass painted on the floor in the photo. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, I had a feeling I may have had a confusion. Well, that helps us with perspective. Well, it doesn't help at all. But it does have some interesting measured perspective, which I hope to... I'm surely will talk about that in the course So yeah. I grasp the circle being stand in for the cranium, but don't get for the oval. Okay. Um, Gold. Hi, sir. I wanted to know how could I do wet and wet in normal paper because I don't have watercolor paper. Actually, I don't think you can. It's gonna be a mess. Just don't do wet and wet. In fact, try and find better paper. Generally speaking, if you're gonna use watercolor, it's just very hard. If you have good thick paper, you could get away with things and actually get some interesting effects. If it's printer paper that's very thin, like what is the thinnest, like 60 grams or 90 grams? I'm not sure. That's gonna be a problem. You can use it. It's just really gonna warp and it's gonna look strange. So try to get better paper, even if it's just Bristol paper. Just avoid the printer paper, whatever it is. And yeah, wet and wet is gonna be limited in these kinds of papers anyway. So take it easy with the water. Don't go very thick with the paint necessarily. You just don't have it super flowy, because that can warp the whole thing and rip through the paper mainly. If it warps, it's not a big deal, but it can rip through it, you know. Frank, do you know about perspective? Yes, this is what we're doing today. Part of what we're doing today. I use Liron. I face hard time to draw hairs. Any tips? Yes, pretty much like everything with the hair. It's a bit more of an organic structure, but you want to first focus on the bigger structure. So, even if I look at my own hair in a way, there's the, I'm not going to draw the face, but there's the overall shape of the hair. I'm looking at myself now. That's the side of the face. So the hair is a little longer up top and gets shorter to the side. So that's my ear, right? So I first focus on the overall structure, meaning this entire shape, and how it gets thinner around here. And then within that, I can start giving it some general details like the curls or, you know, whatever it is you're dealing with. Same with long hair. So let's say, let's do a real simple face here. Like that. So you want to first think of the entire hair as one big shape almost. See? Well, let's say this particular haircut, but still. One big shape. And only then start dividing it into substructures. See? There's usually an overall theme to the hair. I can find a good example for this to show you, but let's see. Find. The idea is to work large to small. Shading is a different story, by the way. So if you're talking about shading hair, that's something you'll have to probably focus on separately. Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can share. Okay. I'm gonna do a screen share real quick. Or window capture. Yeah. Okay. So you have this 3D model, right? And look at the hair. There's a structure to it, right? You can look at, so let's say the braids, for example. If you want to draw this kind of braids, you'll have a really hard time if you're just going at it Let me make sure you can see everything. If you're doing it like this, right, and you're trying to draw the small details, and it's a mess, right? But if you treat it as one shape that's maybe a cylinder that goes in that direction, and then you figure out, okay, so this faces, let me think about it for a second. Yeah, okay. So this faces away from me, and this faces towards me, and then this is kind of in the center. You can start figuring out what the structure is you're working with. So for example, we see the center of the cylinder, and then maybe it moves a bit off center to the side like this. So then this is one side of the braids wrapping around itself. See? Then you have at least some kind of a structure to work with. Everything we talked about so far will apply to that. Everything about the perspective. These are, at the end of the day, cylinders wrapped around cylinders. So this is a cylinder as well, right? This is a cylinder. You see? Every little group of hair here is a cylinder wrapped around itself. You take just one braid. See? Now, if you're talking about, let's say, the actual structure here, right? So, this. One way of doing it would be, again, to figure out the overall structure of the hair. So we get the nice parting. I would simplify the parting too, actually. That's a mess. So I'll do something like this. That's the way the hair is parted. And then we have this left section, wraps around the head, right? That. And we have the right section also wrapping around the head, which is why you're seeing these lines go around and disappear. Go around and disappear, right? But before you can start, putting in all the strands of hair and the little details, you need to figure out the overall structure. Just like we do with a box that has a three-dimensional structure, same goes with the hair. It is a more complex shape, no doubt. But it's still one you can tackle. I hope that makes sense. The thing with the braids especially is it's really important. If you start figuring out how cylinders work, and I'm going to talk about it in the course, there's a lot of work. I'm just starting out, but it's going to take you from the basics, so don't worry. Cylinders are advanced. I'm going to start with stuff that's way more basic, but generally speaking, again, how the cylinder works. Once you get that, then you can start playing around with, twisting cylinders, right? Something that's a little more interesting, or you can show more extreme angles of cylinders where you see above and below, right? You can do a bunch of stuff with it. Long story short. So yeah, I hope that helps. Well, let me get rid of this window and see the also, can you please review tips for drawing head at side angle, dip between eye sockets and nose, ridge between nose and lips? Yeah. So one of the things you want to figure out before, I won't go into too many details because I have a few videos on it, but one of the things you want to figure out is the angle of the face. Is it flat or looking up or looking down? But if it's flat, and then you have the side of the face, which we've seen earlier from a different angle, right? But now we're looking from here. We're seeing it straight ahead. One of the more important things is figuring out this overall structure. Not the details within it, but like, is it going outside, inside like this, outside like that? Will depend on the structure of the person's face. But once you figure that out and you connect the chin, and you got the basic structure for the neck, something like this, the a good place to start would be here. This is the eyebrow line, right? It's the line with the ear, lines up with the ear. So what happens is under the eyebrow is where the dip happens. So you'll have this kind of a dip. In. And the eye is going to fall somewhere around here. And then from here, the bottom of the ear is pretty much where the nose is going to be. Okay. And then here you have to figure out, again, the overall structure. And only once you get that, on top of that, you can base the details. Okay. So I hope that helps. There's a great variety there, because if we were to start with a different curve for the front of the face, we'd get something very different, right? So you'll get the nose in. Maybe the nose is shorter and stumpier, but the lips come out more. This is a bit exaggerated, but maybe like this, okay? You got all sorts of different structures. But yeah, that will be the overall proportions. Banani, hey, how are you doing? I'm from sunny Belgium. Thank you for being here. Rabbit Lisa, can I just say your hair is looking really good today? Oh, thank you so much. It's starting to get to the ideal length. Usually once I cut it, takes a while, and then it gets to the nicest, best look. Christina, I highly recommend Liron's excellent books on perspective drawing people, shading. I have all of them. Thank you so much. I use them to teach. They're all on Amazon. Yeah, and if you want to learn perspective, wait a bit, because I'm going to have an awesome course on that. Give it some time. Don't get the perspective book, because I'm going to go into more basics and more beginner and more advanced in the course. So you'll get more value, I think. Perspective is the hardest subject, especially human figures for me. You know, human figure is complex. It's not about a perspective, though. That's not the part that's complex. The part that's complex is you have to learn a lot about the structure of the human body. But yeah. Yeah, it is short now, my hair. Yep. Derek, my perspective angles are okay. My proportions get pretty wonky, though. Yeah, that's one more thing you have to kind of take into consideration. It takes a bit of a mindset shift. So sometimes, let's say you want to draw a box, right? And you're like, okay, that's a good angle. That's a great angle. But then once it comes to like this measurement, you go, oh, okay, there we go. And the angles are okay, but that's not a box. That's not a cube. Sorry, it's a box. So you want this distance to be equal to that. The thing is, if you take the same measurement, you're going to have a bad time still, because things, again, when they go into space, in depth, they appear to be shorter. So you'll have to cut this line a little shorter for it to produce an accurate cube, right? So that's an issue that some people have. Yeah, you'll get the angles right, but the proportions are off. That happens. A bit of tweaking, practice, and observation on an accurate cube, and you should be okay. I think the important thing is to catch your mistake and then learn how to fix it, and not let it continue. Once you catch it and fix it a few times, you're good. Just the art of drawing is to learn to see. In a way, yeah, for sure. Rita, shalom from Finland. Thank you for being here. Can you discuss for shortening, especially arms and feet, at 1 and 2 point perspective? Yes. Let's see here. So for shortening in general is the more important concept here. So if you have a long cylinder that looks like this, pipe, whatever it is, if you look at it from a very extreme angle close to this end, you're going to get something very extreme. So you're going to get something like this in some cases, right? When you draw an arm, a limb, a leg, whatever, this takes precedence. The perspective will take precedence over the rest of the details. So if you have just a normal kind of arm, let's do it real quick. It's been a while since I did some proper anatomy drawing, but let's here, there, neck, and then maybe we'll move on, like I said, to some landscape. But in any case, so this is a person, and then the arm is gonna come out of here. So if the person's arm is just facing down, right, you'll get the, what is it, deltoid muscle, that bicep, whatever. Yeah, that's bad. But in any case, yeah. So that's where the arm is pretty much facing us. But then if facing just, we're looking at its side view, like this, side view. But once it faces us, so the person raises their arm, it changes vastly, but more due to the angle. So what you'll get with the deltoid, for example, so this is about the center of the upper arm, so it's going to be around here. So you'll get the deltoid kind of wrapping around, going like that. And then the rest of the arm with the bicep will probably do something like this, right? So the shape changes greatly. That's very inaccurate, but that's fine. Shape changes greatly. But the main thing responsible for that is the angle of the limb. So first treat it as a simplified cylinder if you can, before you add in the anatomical details. Even if you're looking at a reference photo, reference 3D model, first do this. Figure out the basic shape and where it's aimed in space, because maybe the lower arm will be facing us, right? Whereas the upper arm goes here, lower arm straight towards us. That's what you want to give precedence to for any limbs, for the torso, for any of that stuff. I hope that makes sense, Christina. For shortening, especially arms and feet at 1 and 2. Now, 2-point perspective won't be as relevant to cylinders in this context. It will be relevant to feet. So the structure of the feet, which I don't really remember that well, but you'll get like a triangle, and then it's gonna curve a bit around the bottom. So you get the heel and the fingers and all of that, the toes, sorry, and all of that. But yeah, that will take into account 2-point perspective. So that's gonna be vanishing point 1 and vanishing point 2. You'll have 2 vanishing points because the basic structure is a box that turns into a triangle. This is why I think starting at perspective is a good idea for most people, by the way. I lacked a bit of perspective knowledge, which after gaining made my anatomy studies much easier. So yeah. Frank, I'm trying to do a building in perspective with an offset point to a side. When I do it, it looks weird. What do you mean by an offset point to the side? Is it an angle from above, from below? Let me know. If you're doing a building from the top, you'll end up with something like that. Right? That's if it's from above. Right? This should line up better. And then if you actually connect all of these lines, you'll find the horizon line, and lo and behold, it's above us, right? So if I take this whole thing, make it small, and connect, again, these dots, maybe somewhere around here, the horizon line is going to be here, right? That's going to be our horizon line. Something like that. You may have some taller buildings, right? So maybe there's a closer, way taller building, but somewhere around here. That's gonna, sorry, that has to follow the same 3-point perspective. So that's gonna be here. Right? Maybe there are roads or stuff in between, whatever. I'm not sure what you mean, but the bottom of the building has to conform to the same vanishing points. That's key, and that's something people lose. Sometimes, okay, one more thing people do is they exaggerate that third point. So they go like, so they'll have the top of the building like this, and then for the bottom they do this. And this is just, this is gonna assume that your vanishing points are very close to one another, which they tend not to be. And I'll talk about that too in the course. There's a good reason why they're farther apart, and there's a way of determining how close or far they are. It's actually something you can understand and apply. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, happy it was helpful. Rabbit Lisa. One of the most useful things I find when drawing is that I need to verbalize what I'm doing like I'm narrating a YouTube video. Like, okay, the light is coming from this side, etc. I have the same experience, you know, when I do painting processes live, or I narrate them and film them in real time, and then post it as a video later. It sometimes the result is much better because I'm talking to myself and I'm really, you know, analyzing what I'm doing. It's very interesting how that works, actually. Yeah, sometimes narrating helps. Sometimes it hurts the process, but very often it helps. It makes you think about it more. I think I'm underestimating how much that helped me grow as an artist, actually. Funny. Unrelated, but do you have an opinion on liquid watercolor? It would work the same, right? Just easier to dilute, I guess, and it's more concentrated. So I think there are some, definitely some advantages. I'll just need to try it myself to know. When is the course on perspective? Can we sign up for an email alert? Yeah, I'll do something. I'll set it up. Do a video, and send it to you. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. I'll do that. Can I set it up live? No way. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll make something. It's a good idea because then I can just notify you it's out and people will know it. Now when probably the filming and production isn't too long. I just want to really carefully plan it out to make sure it's good. So a couple of months. There's time still. Don't hold your breath. If you need something for right now, ask it now in the live stream, everyone. That's a good idea. Good morning, Chris. How are you? Renaye, so excited. I got to join the live. Oh, it's your first time in live stream, I think. Thank you for being here. Hey, Sunil. Hope you're doing well. Frank, it's a building that has the roof is not centered on the square of the house. Okay. Got any fantasy art books to recommend? That's a good question. Not really, but if you know of a good one, I'd love to know. Sure, I have something and I keep forgetting. Frank, the roof is not centered on the square of the house. So wait a second. So there are a couple of ways this can go. What you're describing. So let's say that you have the building, right? So that's your building. And some kind of a structure, and then you'll get the roof. So one way of doing it is a roof that's centered, right? Something like that. Or you can have the roof off center, so you'll get I'm just not sure if that's what you mean, but you can of course get something like that. That's more to the side. You can get something that's very strange like this, you know, all sorts of structures there. So I'm curious to hear which one, but whichever it is, you can structure it probably with perspective quite accurately. So yeah. And then maybe you mean like a completely different type of roof. You know, I'm not sure. But yeah, let me know. We can try figuring it out. Judith, I don't know what you refer to in terms of signing up. Let me know. I'll if you're talking about the upcoming course, I'll share a link in a video, and then you can just use the link to get notified. Because yeah, the compass rose mosaic. Yeah, so let's go back to that for a second. So if you look at if I bring it back here, a nice little detail, and you get to see how much perspective in a way distorts reality, right? This is really let's just keep oval, because it's really a kind of crooked ellipse. It's not that hard, so if we flatten it, we'll have an ellipse of some sorts. We'd want to find the center, which will be somewhere around here. And then if you just start putting in those lines, you should be able to kind of locate all the angles. So we have this 90-degree angle for the main arrows. Now it's off center, which is interesting. So you'll get this. There's actually a way of transposing this. Let me see if I can figure it out live here. So if we move all of this up, make it a little smaller. There is a way to transpose it. It's a little strange, so stick with me here. So we're going to do a perfect circle. At least we'll try. I can just draw it like that. If I fill it in and then I do select, shrink by, let's say, 2 pixels, delete, done. Nice. That was a neat trick. And then if on top of that you draw the thing you want, you can just transpose it. So let's say we rotate this a bit, and we'll do a 90-degree angle of the main detail, right? So we have, let's say we have this. We have a circle in the middle. This. And we have more for the main axis. Well, we have this kind of a thing. Now what you can do is from this front view, because we're looking at it from above, right? We have it in an angle, at an angle now. So you can just drop a line, and this is where it's going to end up. So you'll get 1, 2, and then you can do the same here. This goes here, right? And you'll get the same thing. Or you can just use what you already have here and kind of this, right? This goes up to here, and this goes down to here approximately. And it's a way of, and I'm going to teach it in the course as well, transposing from front view to angled view. How cool is that? I'm going to show how it works on a more technical, more full. Oh, that compass on the floor is trickier than I thought. 6 equally spaced points rather than 4. Forget what I said earlier. Sorry. It's not that no, it's actually 4 main ones and then other secondary ones. Steve. But yeah, the real tricky part is transposing it. You'll get these, and then you'll get these, which fit perfectly here. So this, that, see? It's very interesting. You can take the same concept. So if you want to, let's say you have a can You know what? Let's say you have I don't know if a can is a good example, but yeah, let's say you have a can, right? And you have lines running across it. The closer you get to the edge, the closer together the lines are going to be, right? So you can measure that out the same way we just did by simply placing a perfect, this is not a perfect circle, but it's close to, and then do the lines in equal increments on the thing. So this line is equal to this line in length, to this line, to this line, this line, right? These are all equal parts. And then you do the same thing. So you'll do here, 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 here. And once you drop these lines, they're actually going to be in equal distances, but into space. So that's a fun way of doing that. And you do the same thing here. It's just not easy when you get started, but you can get it. That's how you can measure inside a circle that's actually an ellipse accurately. It's a cool trick, and it works. But yeah. Got one in mind, but it won't ship in where I live. Oh, that sucks. Which one is it? I'm curious to see. This fantasy art book. I have enough, like, just art books, funny enough. I have a lot of, the mangas and stuff like that, but I don't have many pure art books. Would like to have more. Yeah. Let's look at the landscape. Maybe a landscape that actually has some perspective that may matter. Let's see. What shall I search for? Where perspective will matter. Oh, that's a nice one. Actually, that's a good one. Let me show you. This is cool. I'm just gonna save the photo. I'm not a robot, and I can recognize a motorcycle when I see it. I hate captchas, especially when I'm live. Traffic lights. I painted many traffic lights before. I know what they look like. Now let me download a photo. Okay. I'll show you. It's a scene you wouldn't necessarily think you need perspective for, but it can come in quite handy. So let's get rid of theirs for now. And we'll add this one. So when you look at this thing here, let's get rid of. There we go. And actually, I'm gonna open up a new document and make it landscape orientation. Okay. So when you're looking at this rock structure thing, right? The horizon line is quite clear, actually. It's right in the middle, pretty much. So it's here. So what this does is, and there's a bunch of mountains, and there's a bunch of details, and then there's the main rock here. But look at what happens to this pile of rocks that kind of has this shape, right? It almost goes like that. So for the rocks that are above, you can see their bottoms. You can see their behinds. No. So you have this rock here, one of the main ones, and it's an organic shape, right? But look at what happens when you can see a lot of the bottom of this rock, right? See this side? Same for the rock on which it sits. You can see quite a bit of that too, because we're looking at them from below. We're looking at them from below because this is our point of view, and I will explain this in detail in the course. But everything above the horizon line, we're looking at from below. So if you have a flying saucer, you look at it from below, right? We'll have something like that. Oops, you can see you'll have something like that, right? If it's gonna land, so we have one flying saucer that's we're looking at from below, and we can see its rays getting prepared to bring up a deer into the spaceship, right? But then if it lands, we're gonna look at it from above, right? Same goes for these rocks. Above, we see the underside. Below, we won't see as much. So let's continue. Let's build this structure. And you saw how I started with a gesture, with an overall structure, right? So there's this rock. We can see a bit of its underside. And then here, as soon as we get to the horizon, not so much. We don't see much of the bottom of the rocks. See? This rock, we barely see any of the bottom side. And then we have these two larger rocks. And this is organic, very organic shapes. But still, we can kind of figure out the perspective based on it. Because we can really see the bottom side of these rocks. Whereas we cannot for these. And here we see a bit of the upper side of the rocks. See? So even in nature, this thing will work. Let's say you're at a mountaintop and there's a flag, right? So here's a flag that someone put up there, right? And if that flag has some bandages wrapped around it, you'll get curves that go this way, flat on the horizon. This way, the more they go up, and the other way, the more they move down. So we're getting a larger, thicker view. And this is why perspective is pretty much relevant to everything. Everything you're going to draw. Going to have some kind of an effect. Now, where was I? Let's see here. Born Again Farm Girl. Hello, everyone. I absolutely love our artistic failure of Liron and others. Thank you so much for being here. Daiji, love this perspective work. Reminds me of that technical drawings I had to do in college where we drew an object from different perspectives. Cool. Yeah, that's a good exercise as well. To do like your computer monitor from side view, and then from front view, and then from a 3/4 view. That's a great. I'll talk about that too. Soul Arts from Toon and Fairweather. Let's see what it is. Now I am curious. Oh, that looks good. That looks really nice. So that's some dark fantasy, it seems. Very good. I like it a lot. Yeah, DSOS, it looks great. Great book, especially for those that love the Dark Souls aesthetics. Oh, cool. Yeah, I want to play Dark Souls after I'm done with Hogwarts Legacy, maybe. Samara, raining outside. What are you doing inside? Staying away from the rain, I guess, right? Yeah, here it's not raining. It rained yesterday and the day before, but today is relaxed. The pile of rocks is looking like a Rush album. Funny. So yeah, this will apply to pretty much everything. You practice until things become a little clearer, which can take a while, and that's fine. But once they do, and once things start to fall into place, you can draw some really cool stuff. And you don't have to think much about it. Just really fun. Even if I'm going to draw a head or a face, I always have in mind, okay, am I looking at it from above? Am I looking at it from below? So this is a little from above, right? Just a little bit. And yeah, I was going to originally draw a character I had in mind, but then felt like doing some perspective, so we changed course a bit. Yeah. So you learn a bit of the basic structures. Kind of get that, and then slowly but surely everything else falls into place. Again, it can take a while. I don't think it needs to take too long, if I'm being fully honest. I think once you know something, you know it. You don't have to be a perpetual, practitioner of something. I think at some point, you just have the knowledge, and it's all about using it. And graduating in a way from, and we talked about this before, just practice. At some point you have to graduate from just practice. You have to start applying what you learned. For example, perspective applies here with the eyes to line them up, in many different ways. I have the benefit of doing this and reversing and finding mistakes digitally, which is really nice. On paper, you'll have to use a mirror, something like that. So now I go like this, and I see, oh, okay, actually looks quite good. I may change the mouth a bit or something like that here. Imaginative Realism. That's the name of the book. Oh, that's cool. Imaginative Realism actually sounds great, in a way, that's the ideal, right? You want to be able to, if you're interested in having something you imagine and then being able to render it in a way that's believable and realistic. I just ink this. I don't know, I feel like inking. Real G pen. But yeah, I want to play around a bit more with digital. It still won't compare to me ever to watercolor. Watercolor is something special. It's just so much fun to me at least, to mix things on paper and to feel the friction with the paper, and I find that it leads, for me at least, to more unique results. Maybe once I start getting digital more and understanding it better as a medium, this may change. But yeah, I don't know. There's nothing compares to me yet. To actually using and feeling, the brush on paper, and to actually need to be able to learn how different ways of using and moving the brush influence the result. That's something I really enjoy. And it's not, it doesn't really exist in digital as much. Where the pressure you apply and the angle and everything can really mess up or make something look awesome. DSOS, thanks for the recommendation. Gonna look it up. Anything fantasy or alternate reality helps. More fascinated by those themes. Yeah, have you, DSOS, have you read Berserk? Not that I'd recommend it to anyone who's into, let's say, dark fantasy, but because it's quite dark. But it's such a staple in a way for dark fantasy and for the universe. A more, medieval setting, which I like a lot. I really like medieval settings, and the story I'm gonna work on next will be in one. Make this lighter. I have a good idea for a story. Medieval all the way, but not fantasy. I do want to do fantasy at some point, probably. It sounds to me like something that'll be really fun. But for some reason, the stories I feel like I'm more not well suited, but more kind of attracted to writing are focus more on the people, and I don't think I'll have enough room to include in them anything else really. Definitely not something too fantasy oriented, you know. Put the mouth into that. Caroline. Yeah. I'll just go a little scribbly now. But I would like to do some finalized, you know, sketches of characters, whatever. Funny enough, Berserk is one of my inspirations for my art style. Oh, cool, yeah. Berserk is huge. I wonder what's gonna happen with it now that it's in different hands and all of that. Hopefully something good. I have 1 or 2 chapters to read. I haven't been on top of it as much as I would want to. But you know, you can never have too much Berserk to wait to, so I'm good with that. I'm okay with reading 6 chapters in a year or so. I don't know how much there will be out. Maureen, have you done work with watercolor pencils? What do you think of this medium? It's interesting. Not too much, but from seeing some videos and looking at some other people working, it does look interesting and it looks useful too. Like if you're looking for some accuracy or some, I guess more of a specific kind of look as well. But not just the look, also just the way you can handle small details with pencil in general. And then with colored pencil in this example is really nice. You know, I think it's just useful if you know how to use it. So I may introduce a bit of it. I have a few watercolor pencils. I just haven't really used them so far. But I have them, and I can use them if I want to. Very simple ones. I have like a white pencil and a bit of a cream, kind of looks like titanium white almost. Oops. So yeah, I could use them if I'd want to. Now let's figure out. Now I'm just figuring out the angles with the pen, but yeah, it's gonna be a bit of an upper angle. Yeah, I'm not gonna finalize this now. Yeah, what other good dark fantasy are there? Dark Souls, of course. Berserk, I'm trying to remember. There was this game that looks shocking that came out a year or 2 ago. Was it Scorn? That's a good one. Very reminiscent of what's his name, the one with the creatures and aliens and weird mutations. I keep forgetting his name. You know, the alien influence horror guy. So yeah, that looks nice as a dark fantasy. Yeah, I'd like to. Maybe I'll do something and paint it. So I need the hair is really off. This should go much higher. Nancy G, cool face drawing. Just remembering that I forgot to check out the manga you posted. Oh yeah, check it out. And I'm gonna wrap things up soon. My voice is getting a little hoarse. Yeah, check it out. It's a short story. I don't know, very quick read, like 5 minutes. I am thinking of another one. We'll see about that. just a lot of work. So I want to make sure I properly define the scope before I actually move ahead with something like this. But yeah, I think we can wrap it up now. I will definitely let you know about the perspective course once it's getting closer to being ready, and of course, I'll do something with like a email update. Perspective is a science, so that's gonna probably influence the name of the course. I'm still pondering it, but it really is a science. It's something you can learn and then be able to do. It's not really a magic trick. Let's switch over. Is the view I need? Yeah. It's not really a magic trick. It's something anyone can learn. Once you get the principles, and if you start from the basics, you'll be good. Some people, I think, are just jaded by it because, you know, they tried it in the past and didn't really work. But once you get over that, it's not that hard. It really isn't. Disos, they recently continued the manga under a new supervision, basing it on the author's transcripts and interpretation on his words to his successor. Yeah, I just hope he gave them an accurate enough of a script or plan or name or outline so that the overarching feel and story remains, you know, congruent to everything we've seen so far and works out well. The art will change, already has changed. Nothing can match Yura's quality, I think. I mean, some artists can, but not his style. But then when you put the two together, it's detrimental. Like, I immediately noticed the change in the face expressions, quality, and subtle stuff like that. That's just hard. I really hope that's gonna stay as good. If not, I'm not really gonna blame anyone because they're doing their best. But yeah, I hope it's gonna be an enjoyable one. But it's still super slow release. Yeah. You got it, Christina and Nancy. Thank you for being here, Maureen. Thank you everyone for being here. Much appreciated. Nice 2 hours. I'm gonna do again. I'm gonna try maybe next week to do 2 live streams. Maybe one will be a more relaxed. Maybe I'll just play Hogwarts Legacy and talk to you. I wanted to do that for a while. Miura is just that great of an artist, a virtuoso. Yeah, he's man. You know, the slow release is crazy, but it was necessary. You know, there was no other way this manga could have been done. That's just who he is, and the way he built his panels, all the double page spreads, and it's all artistic and it's all great composition. Like, if I have here the deluxe edition of the big volumes of 1, 2, and 4, I believe. The double page spreads are so insanely impressive. I don't know how. Even the way the panels are built, it's so smart. I don't know how one does that. That's really crazy. It's like he's treating the entire 2 pages as a painting that has to work compositionally as one big piece. Crazy stuff. Really crazy stuff. Very impressive. Yeah. Thank you, Frank. And thank you, Alessandro and Steve. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you once again. We'll see you next weekend and Saturday, where there are going to be a couple of short, cool videos. Not a major video for Saturday, but next week we'll have more. The way that the visible horizontal bits on the stairs get smaller and smaller as you went upwards was a real eye-opener. Cool. Yeah, if you want to see one kind of final... is it this? No, it's not. Is it this? Yeah. Yeah, that came out real nice. I'll save it and maybe continue it in some other time. That's perspective for you. The magic of perspective. Boris Vallejo or Vallejo. That's interesting. We'll take a look for sure. Also forgot to recommend another dark fantasy, Dorohedoro. Yeah, Dorohedoro I started watching. I didn't like it as much. Maybe I'll like the manga more. And I need more time sometimes to like something like that. It's a bit out there on first glance. Kind of like a One Piece thing where it's a bit weird, a bit strange out there. Takes some time. Yep. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week probably for a proper video. Until then, take care.